down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, Savvy investors, you may be savvy, you may be new. I don't know where you're at, but hey, I want to go over some quick vocabulary, some words that you need to know, even if you were a rookie or you've never bought a house before. I know this is maybe elementary to some of my great fans, followers, whatever, peeps up there texting me, letting me know that you're down, doing some complicated mathematician math work coming up on a podcast. Also, we're dropping some really good, hopefully you just listened to the SWOT analysis that went off yesterday. Thank you, Scott England, for dropping it. But I noticed at that breakfast and the investor breakfast, I noticed there were some rookies that never bought a home before. And I was like, that's usually not my audience. But I was like, hey, maybe there's some words. So I jotted down some words that you need to know, just 10, and you may know them already. So I'm going to fire them off and kind of give a little defining on them. All right. So some vocab for you. Number 1, an offer. Yep. It's an agreement, just like a contract. When you submit an offer, it's between you, the buyer, and the seller to purchase real estate. It's bona fide, also known as a sales contract. So when you're saying an offer, it's an actual contract that you're passing across the table, and they may sign it or they may not sign it, but as soon as they sign it, it's bona fide contract. You have interest. You're in control. That's number 1, offer. Number 2, contingent. Contingent. Yeah, you think I'm cool? I could spell? No, I'm reading it. Contingent. Offer on a home has been accepted, but finalized the sale is contingent upon certain criteria. Like the appliances need to stay in, or I was on a deal not too long ago where there was a ton of drainage problem and a French drain needed to be installed before we closed. Interesting. Or you can put a contingent in there, and typically it's like home inspection, approval of financing, and also a pretty basic one is for appraisal. You can also put a contingent in there, and learn this from Rich Dad Poor Dad. You probably know this, so I'm going to say anyway, to the approval of my partner. That's a wonderful contingent, and I was going to actually do a podcast on how to get out of contracts or how to lock them up tighter. But a contingency would be that I must have approval of my partner. Well, who is your partner? That could be your cat, Fluffy Wuffy. It could be whatever, but it's contingent, and it is a way to get out. So you need to learn the word contingent. Number 3, closing cost or closing. Fees that are paid at the end of the transaction by either the seller or the buyer or both. Okay. And you can negotiate these things. And so I always factor in the closing costs in my acquisition. So if the property is $50,000, I know that I got about $2,000, at least 1% in origination fee. Closing cost is a closing cost. Now you can push that stuff if you're a savvy real estate investor on the seller. And so when I purchase property, I always create the contract. It has a benefit for me. There's a clause in my contract that states that I have the right to push this closing an extra 30 days. Could that be a benefit if you're a wholesaler, that you can get, you got it under contract, you say for 30, but there's a contingency or a clause per se in the contract that says we can push this another 30 days. Bing, bing, boom, boom. You might want to put that in. But we're talking about closing costs. We're not talking about those details. In the closing costs, I put right on the front page includes taxes, insurance, and other lender expenses. So that's the scope of closing cost, and who pays for that? Seller or buyer or both. And so there's ways to present that information to your seller to cover those costs for you. Now, if you are a retail flip, and I know you're going to smile, Amin and Justin and all these other folks out there that are all in, A lot of buyers of retail properties want you to pay closing to the tune of $5,000. So when you do this contingency number 2, you might want to put it, I will pay for closing up to a certain amount of money, which would be $1,500 or $1,000. And I just closed a deal that way recently with my boy JJ Griggs. You know what's up. He was trying to jam me up on closing costs because he had to close it. He bought it and then try to flip it to me and make 10 grand. I'm all about you making 10, but don't try to slide some extra closing on me. I said, I'll buy it for X amount up to $1,000 in my closing costs. And that would be a contingent or an addendum or something to that nature. Number 4, earnest money. Bang, bang. Earnest money. This is I could do a whole podcast on earnest money. If you want me to talk about earnest money, boy, I can brag it off for you. But what is earnest money? It's a deposit made to the seller showing the buyer's good faith in the transaction, typically held in trust or an escrow account. That is earnest money. Now, here's the thing. The contract is null and void until there is a proof of that you're committed. It could be $1, but there has to be an exchange of the money, earnest money. And my mind just went blank, so you can figure it out. And it'll pop in a minute. But earnest money, you have to have an amount on there, and that money must exchange hands to solidify the contract. So you got now. You wholesalers have watched a lot of videos, and you know, I tie it up for $10. There's people that tie up contracts for $100. You know, a standard right now, I would say, is probably $1,000 earnest money retail. You're a first time buyer, and you're like, you know, you don't really want to lose money per se, and you can't necessarily lose money if the contract isn't performed. It's just going to take some time to get your earnest money back. So you got to think about it. What's a good amount? Pretty basic is $500. Investors usually put $1,000. If you want to be OGG, you drop $5,000. Real ballers actually write down earnest money for the full amount. You want to scare somebody, you want to gobble up a house, 40 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. If it's a $100,000 house and you know it's worth 100, or it's a $125,000 house and you write a check for 60 G's, which I can't do, which I wish I could do, but you could if you had a line of credit, then that's the earnest money. They fund that deal. You own that crib. Number 5, home inspection. It's pretty obvious what it is. It's a home inspection, but you need to learn this vocab, and it's an examination of the property's condition, usually performed by a qualified home inspector of your choice. Another thing that you need to have in the contract, a 10-day inspection period. And during that inspection period, that's another contingency or a way out of the deal. And you don't necessarily have to have a professional guy that you hire. You could say you inspected the property and it wasn't up to the snuff of that you want it to be. You don't have to justify what it is, and you can walk away from the contract within that time period of those, say, 10 days or 5 days. If you're a super savvy real estate investor, you don't let people have a certain length of time on home inspections. When you buy commercial properties, it's really tight, and the money can go hard, which that means your earnest money. Say you put $5,000 down, you're trying to buy this $200,000 apartment building, and you put a contingency in there. I got a 10-day inspection, and on the 11th day, your plumber canceled on the 10th day to check out the cleanouts with the snake. Shows up on the 11th. You find that all the lines are collapsed. You try to get out of the contract, but it's on the 11th day. In the commercial world, you just lost 5 G's. So you got to be real. The contract is what a contract is, and you got to stick to it. Title. A title is a bundle of rights in a piece of paper. It's the title company will provide you with the preliminary title report for you to review before accepting the property. Back in the day, I never read the title report, and I was having lunch with a banker, and he slapped me in the face, and he's like, I read that every time, because there's exceptions to the title that are in that title report. For example, like there's a big an easement that the fence was built on. They'll still transfer title and give you good title, but they won't insure this exclusion in the title. maybe I should start reading the title report. So the title is a bundle of rights. And so abstract is not on here, but someone explained it to me this way. An abstract and title, kind of the same thing, but an abstract in Oklahoma is like a giant book. It's everything that's ever happened on that transaction. Now, even in like other markets, let's say Dallas, I'm assuming that Dallas is all digital because it's a tech world down there, and their abstract is all digital. But in Oklahoma, we actually still to this day have a physical abstract stored at some warehouse where someone's getting paid. It's criminal because they charge you all these abstract fees to store a book. Anyway, just don't worry. But what it is, it's like a 3-ring binder of, let's say, and every time you do something to the property, it's recorded in this book. And so that book could be 1,000 pages. That book could be 300 pages. Now, one day, those physical books will be all gone. Oklahoma's just a little behind, but that's okay because I love Oklahoma and I'm down with it. But that's what an abstract is, and that's what the title is. And so, all right, got that. Number 8, insurance. Insurance is home insurance. Now, I can do another episode just on insurance, and maybe I should do that. But most lenders, and they will require you to provide insurance on the front end. And so there's different types of insurance policy. There's an EC policy, which just covers like wind and fire and maybe vandalism. Homeowners insurance policy covers contents. Now, you're listening to this radio show, and I'm assuming that you are going to be a real estate investor. Make sure that when you're getting insurance quotes that you're not getting owner-occupied or owner or homeowner insurances. Be sure to gather more than one. And here's some insurance companies that I use that I'm fans with. Definitely use Shelter if you're just starting out. Really good product. American Modern is okay. Allstate, you got to call all 3 of these companies to get the best price, and they change. Like 1 year Shelter is just killing it, super ghetto cheap, and I'm like moved all my properties over there, and then 2 years later they're double. For real, this happens, and you're not paying attention, and if it's escrowed, you're getting murdered. And then you might want to consider a independent insurance company, which is really cool. My All American Insurance, if you can Google that up, and they sell nationwide. It's All American Insurance out of Weatherford. They're not even in my town, but that guy that owns that shop was an agent for Allstate. So he was severely educated, trained, know what the F he's doing, which is the first thing you should do, because a lot of insurance agents just get a job. But he found an amazing product that I use, and you should consider this if you have maybe more than 5 or 10 units. It's Lloyd's of London landlord policy, which I love this policy. And I can go, this is not the insurance episode. If it's insurance episode, if you want me to break off insurance, let me know. But Google up All American Insurance, talk to Damon Hammonds, and he can kind of educate you. You should call 3 insurance people regardless. Even if you call my friend, you should call all and get reversed and educate yourself on insurance. It's going to save you in the long run. Number 9, signing, schedule, closing. Okay, so if you're doing this on your own, or if you're just new to this, there's a process, and I'll probably cover that pretty soon, but you got to have this thing called the closing, and you've got to schedule the closing. You got to get the seller there, and you got to work together. Now, this is why realtors get paid. They orchestrate this situation. They should do that. Now, there's not that many savvy realtors out there that kind of drop the ball, forget to set up a closing, and there's some confusion. And then if the seller is married and, you have it under contract with the husband, but the wife is a nurse and she's on rotations, it gets confusion. But that's what the signing is all about. This is when you're signing the home and you're taking possession of the property, and that usually takes about an hour, and you do it at a title company, aka escrow place. You can even do it at a law office, and on commercial big properties, it's totally different with a totally different HUD and a HUD 1. So if you're a rookie, in 15 minutes, you just got as much information as possible. And 10 is my final word, or words per se. Word is recording. This is the day after the signing of the ownership of the property. It's transferred to you, and then now they document it with the county or courthouse or whatever the terminology is in your country. And this was recorded on your abstract. Now, we talked about that abstract earlier. So just to recap, so we're on the same page, learn this vocabulary. 1, offer. 2, contingent. 3, closing cost. 4, earnest money. 5, home inspection. 6, title. 7, appraisal. 8, insurance. 9, signing. 10, recording. So there you go. That's your first step. You need to understand those words. You need to know them frontwards and backwards. If you want to be a successful real estate investor, you're on your way. Now you're doing it. Anyway, my name is Stephen Van Kallenberg. I've written a few books called The Savvy Landlord. I would like for you to give a review. If you're cheap, like we all are, because you're an investor, I have my first book on Kindle for $3. So do not say you haven't read the book. And, I never talk about myself or the book, but I was just thinking the other day, someone posted on Facebook and said, hey, what's a good real estate book to read that's not Rich Dad Poor Dad? And I was honored. Some of my homies out there said, dude, check out The Savvy Landlord. Well, I don't know if I ever said this on the radio, but I'm going to say this today, that I wrote that book because I read like 30 or 50 books, and everyone says you could be a millionaire, but no one tells you how to do it, right? They just say, yeah, buy my book and you're going to be a millionaire. Well, I set out 9 months of hell, and I wrote this book called The Savvy Landlord, and I tell you, from day Jump Street 1999 all the way to 2011, I chronological every single drama, not all the positive, all the death that I went through, to buy 50 units. So it's a great book, of course, because I read it, and you should read it too. There's no excuse. Only 3% of America has a library card, and a library card costs what? Free. Now, my book is not in the library because I ain't OG. I'm just some little dude out of Oklahoma. But you can get $2.99. Support your boy. I make like 60 cents off that deal. Amazon is a monster. They take the money, but that's okay. But I'm also doing other things that really don't really need that income. But I do like the reviews, and there's somebody out there, and I love to hear testimonials that some dude says, man, my son, you changed his life. He read your book. He couldn't believe that you went through all that jazz. I almost felt sorry for you, and inspired him. And that's what this is about, homie. I'm here to inspire you. That's what this goal is. And you, that's right. I'm listening to you, or I'm telling you, you're listening to me, but still, this is what I want you to do today. Today is Fab Friday, right? Fabily Friday. You need to go inspire somebody. That's my goal for the challenge for you this week. You should do it today, not this Saturday, or this weekend, but by Monday. You should inspire somebody. Inspire them. My boy Octavius, he inspires me. He encourages me. He went through this 40-day fast. These runners, Carruthers, inspires me. He takes his son to the marathon with him. Go inspire somebody. Encourage somebody.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.